Hi, Assassins! I'm Brooke.
And I'm Cami.
Welcome to Bookish Realms.
We're just two girls who can't stop talking about fantasy books.
Welcome to our deep dives of Heir of Fire. This episode covers chapters 44 through 51 of Heir of Fire. Like in past episodes, the chapter summaries and character discussion are spoiler-free, but the rest of the pod does include spoilers for all of Throne of Glass. This podcast is for mature audiences only. Cami, take it away, girl.
Let's get into some chapter summaries. As a reminder, this is a non-spoiler section where we summarize the chapters we'll cover in this episode. So if you haven't read the entire series, but you have read chapters 44 through 51 of Heir of Fire, you can listen to this section. Chapter 44, Manon and Abraxos do the thing. They take on the crossing and they crush it. Abraxos soars like the absolute king that he is, and Manon's faith in him pays off big time. They've officially proved the doubters and Manon's bitch-ass grandmother wrong. Chapter 45. While doing some investigating, Selena connects the dots, realizing the monsters that she and Rowan are hunting are connected to the creatures she faced back in Otterland during Throne of Glass and Crown of Midnight. The puzzle pieces are all starting to fall into place. Chapter 46. Selena and Rowan stumble across something huge, a group of Otterland soldiers led by General Narok, and he's brought 3 of those creepy otherworldly creatures with him. They're clearly planning an attack on Mistward, so Rowan and Selena set a trap. Chapter 47. Well, the trap doesn't go as planned. The creature is way too powerful, and Rowan and Selena are forced to flee. But they pull off a badass move and lead it straight into the arms of the Flesh Pedestrians. And the Flesh Pedestrians, they manage to take that monster down. Chapter 48. Back at Mistward, Rowan steps into commander mode and starts organizing their defenses. And just when things couldn't get more grim, word comes from Otterland. The king has crushed a rebellion in the Calaculla mines by murdering everyone there and in Endovier. It's a horrifying loss. Chapter 49. Across the sea, Kael, Dorian, Aedion, and the people of Otterland learn about the massacre. Everyone is shaken. The grief hits hard. This is the king's cruelty on full display. Chapter 50. As Mistward braces for battle, Selena looks at Rowan and officially calls him her friend. They're not just allies anymore, they're standing side by side as something more. And Chapter 51. The battle begins. Narok's army arrives at Mistward, and all 3 of those creatures are still alive. On top of that, soldiers are sneaking in through a hidden tunnel. The fortress is under full attack, and everything is on the line.
Welcome to Character Discussion. Here we'll do a quick recap of the characters from this set of chapters. For our main characters, we will discuss who they are, what we know, and give a golden line from this set of chapters. As always, this section will remain spoiler-free. For the quick summary for this set of chapters, we will be discussing Abraxos. Abraxos is making impressive progress, especially with the spider silk patching on his wings, which has greatly improved his flying. After a dominant victory in a brawl with Lynn's bull, he gains the respect and confidence of others in the coven, and no one challenges him afterwards. His strength and newfound skills are becoming undeniable. For the main characters in this section, we will discuss Manon, Aelin, and Rowan. First up, let's start with Manon. Manon is facing the full force of her grandmother. After being criticized for her bond with her wyvern, Abraxos, and her overall performance, her grandmother digs her nails into Manon's flesh, threatening her if she doesn't win the games. It's intense. She even scratches across Manon's throat as a warning. But despite the abuse and the pressure, Manon doesn't back down. Instead, she braces herself for the challenges ahead, determined to make the dangerous crossing with Abraxos. With his wings now reinforced with spider silk, they soar up into the sky, defying all odds and the cruelty her grandmother has put on her. This moment really shows Manon's resilience. Even though her grandmother views her more like a tool to win the games than a granddaughter, Manon's inner badass is shining through. And the way that her bond with Abraxos is shown, especially with his wings now stronger, shows just how much potential both of them have, not just to survive, but to rise above the odds. Manon's golden line from this set of chapters is, "Just once," she whispered. "All you have to do is make this jump just once, Abraxos, and then you can shut them up forever." Next up, we have Aelin. In this set of chapters, we see it's not just about the physical training for Selena. She is also still deeply struggling with her emotions. As much as she's focused on her magic, she can't escape the guilt and grief over her past, losing Sam, the people she couldn't save, and her complicated feelings about Kael. There's a huge void in her chest, and she's wrestling with her identity and what she wants for the future. Despite all her growth, the pain is still there, hanging over her. Things reach a breaking point when she unleashes her magic on the protective barrier around the fortress after finding out all of the slaves have been killed. It's raw, destructive, and unstoppable, symbolizing her emotional conflict and guilt, especially over the people she's left behind. This moment marks a turning point for her, realizing that the person she was before, all the pain and loss is gone, and whatever comes next will be different. This chapter shows how Selena's physical training mirrors her emotional journey. She's fighting not only to control her magic, but to confront her grief. While she's getting stronger, there is still a lot of healing left to do. But the raw power she displays, especially when it all comes crashing down on the barrier, shows the immense potential she has to channel both her magic and her pain. Selena's golden line from this set of chapters is, "Because you are needed, and because I will follow you to whatever end." Next up, we have Rowan. In this set of chapters, Rowan takes charge without hesitation. He organizes the fortress defenses, setting up rotations, delegating tasks, and planning for survival with the reinforcements on the way, hopefully. With limited resources and no fully stocked fortress, Rowan knows they'll need to rely on their wits, determination, and knowledge of the terrain to slow down their enemies until help arrives. Despite the tough odds, he remains calm and calculated. He surprises Selena by returning her dagger, which he's clearly been caring for, polishing it until it gleams. When he hands it back to her, he calls her Fireheart, a name tied to her past, but now it feels like a promise of something more. It's a powerful moment of connection, showing that Rowan not only sees her strength, but also understands her on a deeper level. Rowan's actions in this chapter reveal his natural leadership skills and unshakable focus. Whether he's planning a strategic defense or quietly returning something personal to Selena, it's clear that Rowan is someone who always has a plan, and he never forgets the little things that matter. His calm, collected nature, paired with his deep understanding of those around him, makes him a steady presence in all the chaos. Rowan's golden line from this set of chapters is a simple yet sweet one. It is Fireheart. How cute.
Let's explore this world. Here we cover the main world-building elements that come up in chapters 44 through 51. We'll revisit these places and world-building elements in other episodes. For today, this section is not spoiler-free, so if you haven't finished the entire series, please do not continue. But please come back when you have. In this set of chapters, Manon and Abraxos complete the crossing, a key trial for Wyvern and Ryder. The crossing takes place at the Faring Gap, a deadly mountain pass between the Rune Mountains and the White Fang Mountains. It's one of the few routes between the fertile lands of the east and the harsh western wastes. The terrain is brutal, steep cliffs, jagged stone, and violent winds. The gap is known for testing both skill and survival. The trial begins on one side of the Omega, which is the fortress carved into the mountainside. Wyverns sprint toward a sheer drop, tuck their wings, and plunge straight toward the gap floor. At the last possible moment, they must unfurl their wings and pull up, soaring out over the opposite cliff wall. If they fail, both rider and mount are lost, aka they splat onto the floor. This maneuver is known simply as the crossing. It is instinctive for the wyvern, but no less dangerous. It serves as a final test of trust, speed, strength, and control. Only those who succeed are fully accepted as flyers. If you're a visual learner, we do have a graphic on our Instagram and TikTok that shows how we visualize the crossing.
This is our analysis and foreshadowing section, which is not spoiler-free. We'll break down parts of the text that tie into or foreshadow future events in the series. If you have not read all of Throne of Glass, please do not continue. Let's start off with a recap of the last episode, previously on Heir of Fire. At Mistward, Selena and Rowan are finally starting to trust each other. She opens up about her past, including end of year, and nearly burns herself out during Beltane. Rowan saves her just in time and sees the scars on her back for the first time. After that, he never leaves her side. Their bond is getting stronger and stronger. Rowan tells her about Karanam, and Selena shows just how far she's come by creating a full fire shield. In Rifthold, Kale and Adian are undercover, gathering intel on the king's creepy black towers. Murdoch brings bad news. The king is sending a fleet to attack Wendland, and some seriously messed up pale monsters might be involved. Meanwhile, Dorian and Adian are pushing Kale to pick a side, but he's still torn between loyalty and doing what's right. And with the witches, Manon realizes Abraxos' wings need help, so she flies into the mountains, tricks some giant spiders, and steals their magical silk. But even with the upgrade, Abraxos refuses the crossing. When Iskra whips him, Manon snaps and beats her bloody, as she should. Petra surprises her with some meat for Abraxos, and their conversation leaves Manon with lots of things to think about.
So let's start at Mistward. This set of chapters is very Mistward heavy because shit is about to go down. Rowan arrives at the battlements and finds Selena training outside the Wardstones for the fourth morning in a row. She's been slipping out before dawn, and Rowan realizes that's why her magic and fighting skills have improved so fast. Our girl is locked in. The sentries admit that they've never seen anyone fight like her, even though she's essentially battling herself and the magical barrier that the Wardstones create. Selena uses her fire in a variety of ways, throwing it like daggers, punching, kicking with flame, and shielding. She gets knocked down by a reflected blast of her own flame, but instead of quitting, she gets up and keeps going. The sentries don't laugh. Rowan realizes it's not because he's there. They genuinely respect her resilience and strength.
Mostly Selena and Rowan have been focused on her training. However, Selena mentions that training was interrupted by a quote, a rather miserable visit from some Fae nobility traveling through the area, which left Selena in no hurry to set foot in Dornell. Thankfully, the guest stayed for one night, hardly disrupting her lessons. This visit is actually the main topic of a bonus chapter of Heir of Fire. At the end of Foreshadowing analysis, we'll give you a brief summary on that bonus chapter and analyze some of those key moments. But we thought we'd point it out here, so you know that it's coming. It is one of our favorite bonus chapters of the series. We'll have a link to it in the show notes if you want to read it for yourself.
During training, though, Selena starts noticing something. Quote, though she could have sworn she occasionally felt their magic playing together, her flame taunting his ice, his wind dancing amongst her embers. It's hard to tell exactly when Aelin begins to suspect that her and Rowan are Karanam, but this is very clearly one of those moments. Their fire plays together because of that bond. And also, it's just another example of how they balance each other out.
Despite their growing bond, Rowan does not ease up on the training. Quote, but each morning brought something new, something harder and different and miserable. Gods, he was brilliant, cunning and wicked and brilliant, even when he beat the hell out of her, every damn day. Not from malice, not like it had been before, but to prove his point. Her enemies would give no quarter. If she needed to pause, if her power faltered, she died. There are just like so many parts of this that we love, okay? First, we see that Aelin admires Rowan, which period. She thinks he's brilliant, despite brutal training he's putting her through. And we see there's a mutual admiration throughout the rest of the series, which duh, they're supposed to be together forever. And second, Rowan, his training might be brutal, but Selena sees this as necessary. And honestly, it helps her out in the long run, okay? He's not just teaching her how to use her magic, but he's making sure that she'll be able to survive against enemies who won't hold back, because as we know, the Valg are fucked up and they're not going to be oh, you're getting tired, sister? Let me back it up a little bit. No, they're going to be you're getting tired, let me beat the shit out of you and actually continue to keep trying to kill you, okay?
But that's when we see that Selena's shield is, quote, now her strongest ally. We can assume that learning to shield is important in any combat/fighting training. We wouldn't know because we don't know anything about fighting, but it seems important. Rowan's focus on teaching Selena to shield also allows her to turn her power from a weapon to a shield, from offensive to defensive. Yes, her power can hurt, but now it can also protect her.
Overall, we see that this training is so good for Selena. It makes her feel strong and in control. But still, there is some things that she is working on. We're all still working on ourselves, queen. But anyways, quote, sometimes, though, her dreams were of a brown-eyed man in an empire across the sea. Sometimes she'd awaken and reach for the warm male body beside her, only to realize it was not the captain, that she would never again lie next to Kale. Not after what happened. And when she remembered that, it sometimes hurt to breathe. She is actively avoiding her thoughts of Kale since arriving in Mistward because, yeah, as she has. But she can't avoid her dreams. Those dreams are a little bit nightmarish, if you ask me. But she is definitely emotionally haunted by Kale, even though he is across the fucking sea, okay? Selena hasn't fully let go of him, but it's hard to tell if she hasn't let go of the romantic relationship or their friendship. But Selena knows that it's done. She knows that that shit is squashed. And our girl is doing so much healing in Mistward, but this is still something that she's working on. We know how that feels, sister. We get it.
And so Selena and Rowan head off to inspect the newest corpse. The Valg are taking down Demi-Fae left and right. This corpse was left to rot in the woods, and it smells terrible. Selena points out that they're probably dealing with several of these creatures. As they examine the scene, Selena notices the ground looks like there was a struggle. This victim fought back, unlike the others. That's new. So Rowan gives her his dagger so she can inspect the corpse. They have another one of their wordless conversations, and it's all glares and growls. And honestly, Aelin admits that she is living for that shit. She's not even mad anymore when they butt heads. She even admits that it's becoming one of her favorite games. When Selena scrapes beneath the victim's nails, she finds something awful. It's not dirt. It's a black, sticky substance that stinks. Selena recognizes this substance. It's the same black blood she found under the library back in Rifthold. Quote, it was blacker than night and reeked just as badly as it had the first time she'd smelled it in the catacombs beneath the library, an obsidian, oily pool of blood, slightly different from that other horrific smell that loitered around this place, but similar. Black, sticky, oily blood will quickly become a marker for a Valg-possessed person or a Valg creature.
And let's just say that Selena is shook by this connection, okay? Whatever they're hunting down in the Mistward is somehow related to the creature she encountered in the library catacombs. Quote, there had been so many cells in that forgotten dungeon beneath the library, beneath the King's Wordstone clock tower. The creature she encountered there had possessed a human heart. It had been left, she suspected, because of some defect. What if the perfected ones had been moved somewhere else? What if they were now ready? Selena's thoughts are racing here because she remembers that the creature under the clock tower had a human heart, meaning that it was at one time human, or still kind of partially so. She realizes that they might be facing off against something stronger, more perfected versions of that clock tower Valg, which she suspected was left behind for being defective somehow. And this is really the start of our entire crew facing off against the Valg creatures/possessions, but there's still a few things to piece together. And I think it's also important to note here that I think in her head, she's like, that thing was already fucking crazy. Like, if the perfected ones are here, like, how are we going to do this? Like, actually, how are we going to do this? Rowan can see that this is affecting Selena and comforts her in such a sweet, simple way. Quote, a warm breeze wrapped around her, heating her bones and blood, steadying her. Selena doesn't acknowledge that this is Rowan's power, but it's definitely his way of trying to calm her down, which, period.
Rowan asks for details. Selena shares everything with Rowan about the creature in the library, the word keys, and the King's dark experiments, especially how it targets people with magic to use them as hosts. After searching the woods, they camp in a tree, and Aelin watches Rowan clean his weapons. Quote, Rowan slung his shirt over his head to get at the weapon strapped beneath, revealing his broad back, muscled and scarred and glorious. Fine. Some very feminine, innate part of her appreciated that, and she didn't mind his half-nakedness. He'd seen every inch of her now. She supposed there was no part of him that would be much of a surprise either, thanks to Kale. But no, she wouldn't think about Kale. Not when she was feeling balanced and clear-headed and good. So basically, Rowan is eye candy. Selena can't help but notice how strong and scarred he is. Rowan is a beautiful weapon in his own right. Selena also acknowledges that Rowan has basically seen all of her. Not just her body and her scars, but Rowan's also seen Selena's pain and her anger. They're building a certain level of intimacy, and it's no surprise that this does trigger thoughts of Kale. But Selena stops herself because thinking about Kale makes her feel unbalanced. Kale does not offer a sense of stability for Selena. Staying grounded means being in the present with Rowan with this mission. Again, there are still things that Selena needs to work through, but it's obvious that she does not connect Kale with good things right now.
Selena sits down and once again, her mind drifts to Kale, that captain of hers, well, used to be hers. She calls herself out and admits it's probably guilt or exhaustion, but she can't help but wonder what's going on with him and Dorian. Watching Rowan clean up, she jokes to herself it's a good thing he's not interested because she might be reckless enough to try moving on physically. But she knows deep down, no one could fix the hole that Kale left behind. Not even Rowan, which for now he might not be able to, sister. But anyways, Selena also admits that Kale was what she needed after Sam and Endovir, but now she doesn't know what she wants. Quote, whoever climbed out of that abyss would not be the same person who had plummeted in. Selena knows that she's changing into someone new. She came to Wendelin without being able to shift or use her power, but now she's able to do both of those things. And she's changed emotionally as well, especially through her connection with Rowan.
Then she asked Rowan something big about mates. I tried to kill him, she admits, referring to Kale. If Kale had been her mate, wouldn't she have been unable to harm him? Rowan kind of hesitates to give her an answer, but he says maybe her instincts weren't fully active in her mortal form. He even says that mates can sometimes be together before the bond fully snaps into place. But Aelin doesn't want false hope, and when Rowan asks if she wants the truth, she replies, not tonight. She's literally just not ready to face all of that yet. But what makes this moment even more powerful is that she'll figure out that Rowan is her mate, and in Empire of Storms, it's that bond, her inability to hurt Rowan, that snaps her out of Deanna's possession.
The next morning, Rowan and Selena are off investigating again. Period. They discover a hidden path to a stretch of caves along the beach, an ideal place for smuggling something deadly into Wendelin. After nightfall, they confirm their worst fear. The caves are full of Otterland soldiers and 3 of the same creatures Aelin had faced before. The Valg are in Wendelin. Rowan identifies their commander as General Narek, another creature wearing a human face. Rowan confirms the creatures are experimenting on Demi-Fae, trying to find which ones can be warped. One is currently dying inside, and Aelin is furious that they can't help. They know an attack on the Mistward Fortress is coming, so Rowan warns Aelin that the camp is warded and iron protected. Magic will not work. Just as they're planning next steps, Rowan senses one of the creatures coming straight for them. They split up to ambush it. Quote, she felt him first, the smudge of blackness, the silence that enveloped him like an extra cloak. Even the fog seemed to pull away from him. This is one of the 3 Valg princes that have been bouncing around and draining the Demi-Fae. There is something deeply unnatural about the Valg, and Selena can sense it here. That blackness, that silence, the way that things pull away from the Valg are all signs of them being evil, but also a sign that they are not from this world. It seems like the fabric of the world senses something is deeply wrong with the Valg, and you best fucking believe we will be talking about this in our Maas verse. Okay, we will. Stay tuned.
And so, Selena is face to face with one of the creatures, aka a Valg prince. She realizes it has so many similarities to the creature in the library. Same nails, same scent, same horrible presence as the one from the library. But she realizes that this one still has its mind, which makes it even more dangerous. Before she knows it, the creature is behind her. She tries to attack, but when she meets its black, deathless eyes, she freezes, and her magic goes out. The darkness emanating from the creature spreads. Quote, the face was young and male, unearthly perfection. Around his neck, a torque of dark stone. Wordstone, she vaguely recalled, gleamed in the rain. This was the god of death incarnate. It was not with any mortal man's expression or voice that he smiled and said, you. She couldn't look away. There were screams in the darkness, screams she had drowned out for so many years, but now they beckoned. This is our very first look at a Valg prince, though Selena does not know this during this face-off. The torque is what marks this Valg as a prince rather than like a standard Valg. These descriptions track with previous and future descriptions of the Valg. They're unearthly, literally perfect. They don't feel mortal in any way. Selena literally describes him as a death god. That's the energy that this Valg gives off. On a reread, there are so many hints to May being Valg. This is very similar language to how Selena describes her at the beginning of this book. But this Valg prince recognizes her because it's the same Valg prince from earlier in this book from the Barrows. And it immediately starts using its power on Selena. She starts hearing the screams that she connects to everything that happened 10 years ago, her family's deaths and her escape.
The Valg prince has Selena in its thrall. He touches her throat and whispers that her agony tasted like wine. She's frozen, unable to resist the darkness, until Rowan rips her away, shouting her name. To snap her out of it, Rowan bites her, just like before, and the pain pulls her back to herself. Realizing how fast she lost control, Selena unleashes her magic the moment the creature dares her to try and run. Quote, a wall of flame sprang up as she and Rowan sprinted away, a shield into which she poured every ounce of will and horror and shame, damning the consequences. The creature hissed, but she didn't know if it was due to the light stinging its eyes or merely frustration. Selena gets to use the shield that she's been working so hard to master, and it works. Period, queen. She has come a long way with her magic, even though she's still feeling horror and shame. She's able to control the shield. Before, her emotions would make her magic kind of just like go haywire and like get wonky. This is our first hint that the Valg do not like Selena's fire magic. The creature hisses when she uses the fire shield against it, because, as we know, fire is a weakness for the Valg, which is why Doranel, aka Bave City, is made of stone.
Selena comes up with a plan to lead the Valg prince into a trap using the scent from her tunic and a fake trail. She lights a torch to draw in a group of flesh pedestrians. Yes, they are back, luring them into the same spot. As the flesh pedestrians chase her down the path, she and Rowan slip away at the last second, hiding in a tree. The monsters tear into each other, meaning her trap worked, or so she thinks. The screams of battle last half an hour, and Selena and Rowan stay huddled and alert all night. Back in Mistward, the fortress quickly prepares for war. Messengers are sent for help, non-fighters evacuate, and Rowan takes charge of organizing defenses with the Demi-Fae. Rowan and Selena help set traps in the forest to slow the enemy down, while Rowan leads strategy meetings and calmly manages the growing resistance effort.
Selena can't help but notice how Rowan manages everything. Quote, glancing at the Demi-Fae assembled, their attention wholly on Rowan, she could see why they clung to that steadiness, that cold determination and clever mind, and centuries of experience. She envied him for it. And beneath that, with the growing heaviness she could not control, she wished that when she left this continent, she wouldn't go alone. Again, Selena admires Rowan, his steadiness, determination, mind, and experience. Rowan is a great example for how Aelin would like to be in the future. And because she's exhausted from preparing the fortress for attacks, Selena lets herself admit that she wants Rowan to return to Otterland with her. Working with Rowan feels easy and safe for her, and he makes her feel like she can breathe again, which makes the moment when they finally meet back together in Queen of Shadows so sweet. But anyways, Selena suggests calling in Rowan's cadre for help, but he refuses, afraid Maeve will use it as an excuse to recall him. She challenges him for still serving someone so cruel, saying, all this just to prove that she doesn't deserve you. When Rowan stops her from walking away and tells her not to look at him with that disgust, it shows that he cares what she thinks. And later, we learn he calls for his cadre anyways.
Selena walks away, but she can't stop thinking about Rowan and Maeve and her eventual return to Otterland. Quote, but saying that she wished he could return with her to Otterland to Terrasen was pointless. He had no way to break his oath to Maeve, and she had nothing to entice him with even if he could. She was not a queen. She had no plans to be one, and even if she had a kingdom to give him if he were free, telling him all of that was useless. So she left Rowan in the hall, but it did not stop her from wishing that she could keep him. My sweet girl. I love her. She believes that she has nothing to offer Rowan to entice him with, but the truth is that she already has Rowan's trust, his loyalty, and friendship. Those are the most important things. But she doesn't realize yet that that's what's going to make him stay. Not a throne, not a title, just her. Even though she tells herself that she's not a queen and has no kingdom to offer, she's already on the path to becoming one. And he will be her king. These thoughts, plus the stories that she's collected about Maeve, will later allow her to bargain for Rowan's freedom. Rowan's way out of his blood oath is literally Selena. And that simple line that she wished she could keep him shows just how deeply she's come to care about him, even if she can't admit it yet.
The next afternoon, Selena senses something is wrong as the fortress falls silent, more tense than it's been in days. Rowan delivers the devastating news. The king of Otterland has massacred every slave in both Caliculla and Endovir, following an uprising sparked by Nehemia's death. Selena is overwhelmed with guilt and grief. She remembers the people she left behind, those who had worked beside her, suffered beside her, and prayed for someone to save them. Quote, she had abandoned them, and she had been too late. Nehemia's people, the people of other kingdoms, and her people, the people of Terrasen, the people her father and mother and court had loved so fiercely. There had been rebels in Endovir, rebels who fought for her kingdom when she had been. There were children in Endovir, in Caliculla. She had not protected them. Despite rejecting the throne and hiding her true identity as a queen, Selena has always carried a deep sense of responsibilities for others, a trait that makes her feel queen-like even before she fully accepts the title. Her guilt is powerful and deeply personal because she promised herself and Nehemia that she would free the slaves in Endovir and Caliculla. That vow was sacred to her, and now she feels like she can't fulfill it. She feels like she has failed not just strangers, but her people, rebels who fought for Terrasen, innocents who believed in her even when she had abandoned her crown. And the mention of children hits especially hard because Selena knows that kind of suffering. She was orphaned young, abused, and enslaved. That cycle is repeating for others, especially the kids, and it feels really unbearable. Her grief is crushing, and while the guilt may be misplaced, that doesn't matter to her because in her eyes, a queen should have protected them, and in this case, she didn't.
Rowan tries to comfort Selena and whispers her name, but this just makes her spiral more. Quote, and the sound of it, that name that had once been a promise to the world, the name she had spat on and defiled, the name that she did not deserve. That name obviously refers to Aelin, which is her true identity, which she's been running from since her kingdom fell. She sees this name as just another promise that she broke, a name that once stood for hope and honor and Terrasen's future. By hiding, she believes that she spat on and defiled everything that name stood for. She abandoned her people, her duty, her past. And again, her guilt runs so deep. She feels that she doesn't deserve to be called Aelin, not after all the pain and loss that happened while she hid away as Selena. We've talked about this a million times, but she carries so much shame and self-blame even as she works to reclaim that name and make it her own.
Selena is done. She runs outside and unleashes herself, letting her fire magic drain out of her and into the word stones. Rowan approaches her. Quote, a cooling breeze kissed down Selena's neck. The forest had gone silent, as if the birds and insects had been quieted by her assault on the invisible wall. The barrier had gobbled down every spark of magic she launched at it, and now seemed to hum with fresh power. The scent of pine and snow wrapped around her, and she turned to find Rowan standing against a nearby tree. He'd been there for some time now, giving her space to work herself into exhaustion. Rowan comforts Lena wordlessly, sending a breeze and letting her release her grief and guilt without interruption, because Rowan knows when to give her space. And the scent of pine and snow is the scent of Terrasen. It wraps around her, reminding her of safety, home, and belonging, even if she hasn't realized it yet that Rowan and Terrasen smell the same. Rowan already feels like home to her even before she knows why. It's a huge hint to their mating bond as well. Also, when I finally realized that the reason why Rowan smells like pine and snow and Terrasen, I was like, tears, tears. But Rowan tells Selena that Wendellin's reinforcements aren't coming. She responds coldly, "They didn't come 10 years ago. Why should they bother helping now?"
And then he does something shocking. Rowan offers to take her to Doranel that night so she can leave and get what she needs from Maeve. But Selena refuses. She says, "Do not insult me by asking me to leave. I will follow you to whatever end." I can't. That line, "to whatever end," becomes their promise to each other throughout the series. When Rowan repeats it back to her, it's the beginning of something deep and lasting between them. Also, as someone who's about to get married, I don't think that people fully understand, what it means to promise someone that you'll stay with them to whatever end. There's, so much romance and poetry, and the way that it's, it's a very simple but absolutely beautiful and devastating promise. To whatever end is more than love. It's loyalty and sacrifice and choosing each other no matter what's coming. And that's what Rowan and Aelin do.
Then, after promising they'll stay together to whatever end, Rowan pulls out her dagger, the one he took from her at the beginning of the book. He's been secretly carrying it for all this time, polishing it like new. When she takes it, he looks her in the eyes and calls her Fireheart. That name is so special because earlier in this book we learned that it's what Aelin's mother used to call her, and Rowan honestly has no idea, but he chooses it anyways, like some part of him already knew, because she is his Fireheart, okay? Okay, don't tear up on us now. Don't tear up on us now. But after their moment outside, Rowan and Selena continue working with everyone else at the fortress to prepare for the attack. And Rowan reveals that he called for aid, that he asked for the cadre to come help. He doesn't know if Maeve will allow them to come or if they'll even listen, but he asked anyways, because why not? And he didn't do that lightly, because when Aelin asks, "You actually called for aid?" Rowan doesn't answer with words. He just narrows his eyes and answers in their unspoken way, "Some things are worth the risk." Rowan cares what she thinks of him, and he wants to fight for her and with her.
And Aelin sees that. With every shred of her battered heart, she says what he needs to hear. Quote, "I claim you, Rowan Whitethorn. I don't care what you say and how much you protest. I claim you as my friend." And that's the turning point, not just in their bond, but how they'll hold on to each other in the face of everything to come. Rowan turns away, but Aelin catches what he doesn't say out loud. "Even if we survive, you will walk out of Maeve's realm alone." Rowan's already thinking about losing her, already dreading the moment that they'll have to part, and yet he is still choosing to stand by her. But Rowan doesn't know that Aelin is already planning a way to free him because she also refuses to let him go.
Rowan wakes Selena in the middle of the night. Narak's forces are approaching, and it looks like they have been betrayed. The ward traps have been compromised, and a strange blackness spreads on the horizon. It devours light, life, and magic. The Valg are coming. They are coming. The Demi-Fae prepare for battle as Rowan and Selena take position near the ward stones, the last magical defenses around the fortress. The three Valg creatures appear. The one they sent the flesh pedestrians after somehow survived. Narak follows. His darkness lashes the barrier, trying to break through. Inside the fortress, it is absolute chaos. Enemy soldiers flood in through the escape tunnel, confirming that they indeed have been betrayed. Rowan tells Selena to fall back, but of course, she refuses, telling him that she'll stay at the barrier. When he reminds her that she is the heir to the throne, she says, "Right now, I am a woman who has the power that might save lives. Let me do this." That is my fucking queen, okay? That is my queen. Rowan gives her a final order to hold the line, but she doesn't want to just hold the line. She wants to burn. For Endovier, for Caliculla, for everyone the king has slaughtered. With her sword, her fire, and a need for vengeance, Selena Sardathian aka Aelin Galathynius, steps into the darkness. Chills. Chills, chills, chills.
And now to Rifthold. Kale is still going through it, which I feel like is how we start every single Rifthold section in Heir of Fire. He is just like, he is going through it. He's beginning to distance himself from the rebellion, preparing to return to NEL, and questioning whether he even still has a part to play in Aelin's war. Things don't get any better because then we get the Rifthold POV of the slave massacre. At a royal luncheon, the king announces that the slave uprisings in Kalakala and Endovir have been purged, meaning massacred, and boasts about it like it's a victory. It's horrific. Dorian turns white and Aedion somehow manages to bow without revealing his rage. Dorian rushes to Sorsha, desperate to get her out of the castle before she's discovered. He's terrified that the king would torture or kill her for helping him hide his magic, and he's right. But Sorsha refuses to leave him. Together, we'll face this together. Despite everything, Dorian does accept that because he doesn't want to lose her too.
Kale runs off to Elena's tomb to take a moment to even process the horror of this tragedy. Aedion is there, also trying to process. He tells Kale, quote, "What do you suppose the people on other continents, across all those seas, think of us? Do you think they hate us or pity us for what we do to each other? Perhaps it's just as bad there. Perhaps it's worse. But to do what I have to do, to get through it, I have to believe it's better. Somewhere, it's better than this." Aedion has rebelled in his own way because deep down, he still does have hope. But this massacre of people is a brutal reminder of how broken the world is and the lengths that the king is willing to go in order to keep his power. And Aedion needs to believe it's better somewhere else because hope is the only thing that keeps him going. And honestly, Aedion, the way that the US is like set up right now, I feel you, brother. I simply feel you. But anyways, Aedion admits to Kale that he has done awful things for surviving, but nothing made him feel filthier than thanking the king for a massacre of innocent people. Adolin's rule is dehumanizing. Even hidden heroes like Aedion are forced to betray their own dignity to survive. And so we end the Rifthold section with the theater scene, possibly one of the most impactful moments in this series. And every time I see a TikTok fucking thing about this, I cry every time. Like literally tears stroll down my face every time. The royal theater is full the night the news of the slaves massacre spreads. People in the upper tiers sit in quiet shock, hoping to lose themselves in the music. But in the noble boxes, the wealthy talk about profits and slave replacements. No grief, just concern for their own comfort and money. There is a huge divide in the reactions to the massacre of people, of entire generations that are now just gone.
Even when the orchestra takes the stage, they barely pause their conversations. And because we have to, we'll read the whole quote. Quote, "That was when they noticed that every musician on the stage was wearing mourning black. That was when they shut up. And when the conductor raised his arms, it was not a symphony that filled the cavernous space. It was the song of Eelway, then the song of Fen Harrow, and Melisande, and Terrasen, each nation that had people in those labor camps. And finally, not for pomp or triumph, but to mourn what they had become, they played the song of Otterland." Why am I going to cry? When the final note finished, the conductor turned to the crowd, the musicians standing with him. As one, they looked to the boxes, to all those jewels bought with the blood of a continent. And without a word, without a bow or another gesture, they walked off the stage. The next morning, by royal decree, the theater was shut down. No one saw those musicians or their conductor again. Yeah, I really tried to control myself when thinking about this scene, but it is very hard.
When you were reading that, I was sitting here and I was like, don't cry, don't cry, don't cry. It's the part where they're like, and by the next morning, royal decree, like it was shut down and nobody saw them again. Like they just were rebelling and now they're just gone. Like it did, the whole thing just gives me chills over my whole entire body.
Yeah. And that's why the first bullet point here says, like, where do you even begin to like analyze a scene like this? People love the scene. Obviously, we do too, but also we refuse to label this as a side plot. I think this is the plot. One person can't bring down a tyrant, but every small act of rebellion is what brings down a tyrant. And SJM is also just like so good at doing this. She writes these smaller scenes that are representative of like the larger theme. Please don't tell us that reading isn't political because you can't read this scene and say that with a straight face. You're a fucking liar, okay? The musicians in the Royal Theatre are a reminder that even under an oppressive, brutal empire, art will not be silenced. art is protest, and grief here is resistance. The musicians are in mourning black, and they're basically saying, we remember what you've done. They play the songs of the fallen, the song of Eelwe, of Fenhero, of Melisande, of Terrasen. Each song carries the weight of a nation's sorrow and the memory of a people enslaved, butchered, and silenced. This entire performance, I think the reason it hits so hard is because it is both like a funeral that those slaves never got, but also a rebellion. And I do think this music becomes a mirror. It asks, what have we become? The crowd is literally dressed in blood jewels, and they came to forget, but the orchestra literally is like, hey, I'm going to force you to listen. And you can't look away from grief when it stands on stage in black and sings of the songs of every life destroyed. And when they end with the Song of Otterland, it's not a celebration, it's an accusation. It mourns what the empire used to be, which we never learned much about, but it was not like this before, and what it has chosen to become. It also directly echoes Rena Goldsmith's performance in Crown of Midnight when she dedicated a song to the royal family and then was executed for it. Music has always been tied to memory and rebellion in Aylin's world. She loved this theater. The music made her feel alive, made her remember who she was, and now that same music is echoing a cry for justice. Like Brooke said, then the next morning, the theater is shut down by the king, and the musicians are gone, erased, because nothing terrifies a tyrant more than art that refuses to flatter him. In the end, this scene asks the same question to everyone in that theater. Was your silence and comfort worth the cost of your soul? Sorry, I really didn't mean to be so dramatic, but I love this scene. I think it is everything to me. That's it.
It is a masterpiece. Like, SJM really was in her bag when she wrote that. Like, she was really in her bag.
Fully in her bag. She said,
Yeah.
I'm going to write it home with this. You spend like 3 books, like where Selena like mentions going to this theater and mentions how much she loves music and plays the pianoforte. And then you have this scene when she finds out that the slaves that she like, that is like her ultimate goal at this point. And then they're dead. Again, it's like master level planning.
Now on to the witches. Manan and the 13 have been training hard with the other covens, and Abraxas is improving. Everything seems to be going a little well until Manan is summoned by fucking that bitch, her grandmother. Mother Blackbeak is furious that Abraxos still has not made the crossing and lashes out at Manan, accusing her of being an embarrassment. She scratches Manan's cheek and pierces her skin above her heart and asks, "Has your heart melted?" Manan answers no, and Mother Blackbeak continues, quote, "No, it cannot melt because you do not have a heart, Manan. We are not born with them, and we are glad of it." This entire exchange digs into what Manan is just starting to understand for herself. She does have emotions. She does have an internal line between cruelty and compassion, but her grandmother needs to reinforce this thinking in Manan because she essentially is manipulating Manan to be a monster.
Mother Blackbeak continues, saying that Isra caught a Kraken witch spying on them. The Kraken has been held and interrogated in the dungeons for 2 days. We won't get into it here because it's coming up in the next few chapters, but this captured Kraken witch is Rhiannon Kraken II, Manan's paternal half-sister, and Mother Blackbeak makes her kill her. So Mother Blackbeak ends this combo by saying Manan has to make the crossing tomorrow or she's done. And we don't really know what done means, but she scratches Manan's throat, so it's like, you're done.
So everyone gathers to watch Abraxos attempt the crossing, and when Manan gives the signal to move, Abraxas is just not obeying. But this time, he's not scared. He's pissed. He's pissed off. He looks at Mother Blackbeak and, quote, "But he refused to move. Not from fear or terror. He slowly lifted his head, looking to where her grandmother stood, and let out a low, warning growl, a threat. Manan knew she should reprimand him for the disrespect, but the fact that he could grasp what was occurring in this hall, it should have been impossible. Same, Abraxas, same. At Bookish Realms, it's simply, fuck you, Mother Blackbeak. Manan is shook, not because he disobeys, but because he's clearly aware that Mother Blackbeak is a manipulative, controlling bitch. And Manan starts to see the truth. Abraxas is them against the world. Her and Abraxas, besties, it's them versus world. He is not just a beast or a weapon. He has chosen her. He will defend her. And more than that, he hates her grandmother for what she does to Manan. And maybe, just maybe, Manan doesn't reprimand him because some part of her feels the same.
But he's not the only one who's like acting out against Mother Blackbeak. Manan notices that every single one of the 13 has a hand on their weapons. Quote, to fight their way out in case her grandmother gave the order to have Manon and Abraxos put down. They heard the challenge in Abraxas' growl, understood that the beast had drawn a line in the sand. They were not born with hearts, her grandmother said. They had all been told that. Obedience, discipline, and brutality. Those were the things they were supposed to cherish. Astrid's eyes were bright, stunningly bright, and she nodded once at Manon. It was that same feeling she'd gotten when Iskra whipped Abraxos. That thing she couldn't describe, but it blinded her. In this moment, Manon starts to truly feel something she's been taught her whole life to suppress. Love, loyalty, and that emotional connection. Like, this girl does not know what it feels like to have feelings. Also terrified that I just called Manon this girl. I feel like she would eat me. She sees the 13 with their hands on their weapons, ready to protect her. Abraxos drew a line in the sand with his growl, and now the 13 are standing beside him. It's not fear of punishment or a sense of duty driving them, it's devotion. Manon realizes that they would fight for her even if it meant turning against their own clan. And she remembers her grandmother's words. They were not born with hearts. But this moment contradicts that entirely, and we see so many of these moments for Manon. I love it. Manon feels that foreign thing rising in her chest again, the same one that she felt when Abraxos was whipped, and it blinds her. That emotion that she can't name, it's love, it's loyalty, it's knowing that she belongs, not to the Iron Teeth or to Mother Blackbeak, but to the 13 and to Abraxos. And slowly, that is becoming more powerful than obedience ever was for Manon.
Manon gently grips Abraxas' snout and whispers, "Just once, and you can shut them up forever." She's not just asking him to jump, she's asking him to prove them all wrong. And again, it's them against the world, me and my bestie. Then something incredible happens. The beat begins. First from the bait beast below, then Astrid, and then the rest of the 13. And finally, the entire mountain joins in. A shared heartbeat, a shared rhythm. The unity of this is so powerful. Witches from different clans, Blackbeaks, Blue Bloods, join together in support for this one leap. Manon will one day unite all the clans as Queen of the Witches, and we see just how she can bring them all together. Manon reminds Abraxos, "You are one of the 13, from now until the darkness cleaves us apart." The beat doesn't stop as Abraxos runs, as he leaps, and as he falls. The sound of unity pushes them forward. As they plummet, Manon feels it again, the thing tightening in her chest. She doesn't name it, but we all know what it is. Love, pride, hope. Manon and Abraxas complete the crossing just like we always knew they would.
And now the bonus chapter discussion that we hinted at the beginning of this foreshadowing analysis section. So this bonus chapter fits right into chapter 45 of Heir of Fire. It takes place when Selena mentions that some Fae nobility visited Mistward, and it was a miserable visit. It starts with Rowan and Selena bantering about their favorite foods. We learn that Rowan's is meat on a stick, and Aylin's is, of course, chocolate hazelnut cake. Rowan asks Aylin to help host some visiting Fae nobility, including an old situationship of his, Ramel. Things get tense fast. Ramel is beautiful, snobby, and weirdly possessive of Rowan. She also insults Aylin for being a quote-unquote half-breed and unworthy. Esser, another guest, is kinder and strikes up a genuine connection with Aylin. Esser has minor fire magic of her own. When Ramel pushes too far by insulting Emers's food, literally grabbing Rowan and threatening Aylin, Aylin snaps. She uses her fire to basically trap Ramel without burning her. Rowan obviously takes Aylin's side, and Esser quickly realizes that Aylin isn't just any demi-fae girl. The next morning, as the party departs, Rowan speaks with Esser one-on-one. She assures him that she won't expose who Aylin really is, but she makes a pointed comment. Aylin claimed Rowan last night, and Rowan deserves someone who will burn the world for him. We end with Aylin making Rowan a lumpy chocolate hazelnut cake. He devours it and leaves one slice for Aylin. When she takes a bite, she realizes her cake is actually disgusting, all while Rowan is outside throwing it up. So let's go through some notable moments / quotes from this bonus chapter. We'll also have kind of a slideshow graphic on our Instagram that kind of takes you through some of the main points of this bonus chapter. So for context of this quote, this is at the beginning of the bonus chapter, and Selena is experimenting with her fire. Quote, "Try it on me," Rowan said, and she turned toward him and frowned deeply. "Do it." He didn't flinch when she fashioned a crown of flame for him, right atop his head. She sat up, kneeling before him, her own jewelry still burning on her hands and wrists, and concentrated as she fashioned the crown into a wreath, each individual leaf a flick of flame, the gold and red and blue bright as any precious stone. Rowan's silver hair gleamed beneath it. Bold move, he said, as she continued to add details to his crown, one that doesn't have much space for error. She replies, I'm surprised you're not encasing your head in ice. I trust you, he said, quietly enough that she looked at his face. With the crown of flame, he looked kingly indeed, a warrior king as brutal as the lines of his tattoo. And now one for you, he said, and a delightful chill went down her spine as a crown of ice formed in the space between them, its delicate spikes rising high. Rowan lifted it between his hands and set it on her head, its weight light, the chill a balm against the heat of her fire. Selena smiled at him, and he gave a tiny lift of his lips in response. But then she remembered that it was a crown he had made for her. A crown. This moment alone kind of explains why this bonus chapter was not allowed to be in the canon. I think the foreshadowing here of Aelin making him a crown is just a little too much. But at the end of this book, Aelin makes herself a crown of fire when she confronts Maeve. And then in Empire of Storms, she makes Rowan another crown of fire when they're in the Stone Marshes. Basically, this is just our king and queen showing each other off. The next quote that we thought we should point out is right after Selena encases Ramel in fire and basically threatens her. She's talking to Rowan and she says, she considered it. Then after a moment said, it scared me how in control I was, how much I meant it. It scared me that I wasn't scared. It scared me that she made herself look at him. His face was unreadable in the dim light. It scared me that, and then we go into her inner monologue. It scared me that I've come to care so much about you that I draw that sort of line in the sand. It scared me that I would burn and maim and kill for you. And yet at the end of the day, you still belong to Maeve, and there is nothing I can do, no amount of burning and maiming and killing to keep you with me. He released her hand, only to slide his own against her cheek. The gesture so unexpected that she closed her eyes and leaned into it, hearing the unspoken words in the touch. I know. Again, just another moment that kind of explains why this is a bonus chapter and not necessarily part of the canon. It definitely shows these developing feelings that Selena and Rowan has, but it also just kills us how badly they both want to find a way to stay together. And thankfully they do. But it also shows us that Selena is pretty aware of her feelings about trying to keep Rowan with her, trying to find a way to get Rowan out of his blood oath. And then there's our last quote. So here's some context for that one. This quote takes place as the visiting party is leaving, but Esther stays behind to exchange some words with Rowan. Right before this, she did promise they will not tell Maeve about what happened between Ramel and Aelin, and that they won't reveal Aelin's identity to others. But Esther has a little more to say. Quote, Esther studied the disappearing party, then the fortress. We have known each other for a while now. Through all the centuries, I have never seen you present another female as your equal, as your friend, and I do not think you did it because of who she is. Rowan opened his mouth, but she said, I would not take that gift away from you, Rowan, because it is a gift. She is a gift to the world and to you. His fingers slackened on the reins, and Esther motioned her mount into a walk. She is going to fight for you, Rowan, Esther said, looking over her shoulder. And you deserve it after all this time. You deserve to have someone who will burn the earth to ash for you. His heart was pounding wildly, but he kept his face blank, his will ice and steel. Esther is right. Aelin does fight for Rowan. Not only does she get him out of Maeve's blood oath, but she fights to return to him after forging the lock in Kingdom of Ash. And what Esther says kind of reaffirms the other things that we've heard about Aelin/Selena throughout Heir of Fire, that she's a gift, not just to the world, but to him, that whatever is happening between them is different. That's something that Rowan has acknowledged, that Selena has acknowledged, and now a third party, Esther, is also saying the same thing. And without him saying anything here, we do know that Rowan was hoping that they would find a way for him to make it out of the blood oath. We also get some hints to their mating bond here when Esther says that in all their centuries of knowing each other, she's never seen Rowan present another female as his equal, as his friend. Eventually, we figure out that Rowan's mate, Lyria, was all an illusion from Maeve, but here, this whole connection between them stands out to Esther as different. And ultimately, Selena Aelin is Rowan's equal and his friend and his mate and his Karanam and his everything. This is one of our favorite bonus chapters in the entire series, which is why we are having this whole section dedicated to it. And again, there will be a graphic on our Instagram/TikTok that kind of outlines the different points that we just talked about here, as well as a link in our link tree so that you can read the bonus chapter for yourself because someone very graciously typed it out for all of us. But yeah, this is one of those bonus chapters that just has like the cutest moments between them, and we love it.
And next, our favorite moments. These are moments in this set of chapters that we really just loved.
These chapters are kind of heavy emotionally, so calling these like favorite moments feels a little strange, but I do have two of them. The first is when Aedion and Chaol are talking in Elena's tomb after they hear about the slave massacre. Aedion says, "What do you suppose the people on other continents across all those seas think of us? Do you think they hate us or pity us for what we do to each other? Perhaps it's just as bad there. Perhaps it's worse. But to do what I have to do to get through it, I have to believe it's better. Somewhere, it's better than this." Lines like this are what make Throne of Glass feel timeless for me. I really do feel like these are questions that humanity has asked itself for centuries, and they're questions that I still ask myself now, especially as an American when we have a tyrant sitting at the highest office in the land. But what makes this moment stick with me isn't just the despair, it's that Aedion doesn't let it consume him. He believes in the possibility of something better. And more importantly, he fights for it. He helps build a better world. This quote reminds me that even when things feel bleak, like right now in America, giving up isn't the answer. Maybe it is better somewhere else, like Canada, but that doesn't mean we abandon where we are now. And my second favorite moment is a little lighter. It is when Rowan calls Aelin Fireheart for the first time without knowing that it was her mother's nickname for her. It's such a beautiful, unexpected moment, and it was exactly what she needed to hear, and she's like so shook by it. And also, yes, I did check the whole series. He did not know. So he called her that on instinct, which makes it even more powerful.
There is so many things that happen in these set of chapters, but I really only have one favorite moment from the set of chapters. And it is, quote, "All she knew was that whatever and whoever climbed out of that abyss of despair and grief would not be the same person who had plummeted in. And maybe that was a good thing." I don't know. I just feel like in this set of chapters, Celaena is like finally starting to realize that like she can't let this pain hold on to her forever, that she's going to have to like start getting through it at some point. And I really just like that it kind of started like here and then it continues to grow. And lastly, our final thoughts.
I kind of said this in my favorite moments, but this set of chapters reminded me of why I think Throne of Glass will be timeless. The way that this series explores such complex, deeply human themes like grief and guilt, loyalty and justice, love and hope. It's just so beautiful. And what's even more powerful is that it doesn't offer easy answers because the answers are often not easy. Characters like Aelin, Chaol, Aedion, and Manon are constantly wrestling with their choices and what kind of people they want to be in a broken world. That hits very hard for me, not just as a reader, but also as someone who works with young people and thinks a lot about what kind of world we're leaving behind for them. I come back to the series again and again because it doesn't shy away from the darkness, but always pushes towards something better.
For this set of chapters, I feel like just so much happens and there's so much anticipation waiting for the next set of chapters because that's when we like really get into the meat. That's when we get into the meat, and that is when like I feel like all gas, no brakes starts to happen. And I don't know. I just also really like how like all these little sweet moments between Aelin and Rowan are like starting to come together. And I think that this is also when you start to kind of like Rowan. And I love Rowan. I'm a big Rowan big Rowan stan, okay? And I don't know, I just really, really enjoyed reading this set of chapters, and I am excited to get to the Valg and them, like, in the war with Narok and stuff, because I have not really read that since I read it initially the first time, so I'm excited to get back into that. That wraps up our deep dives for chapters 44 through 51 for Heir of Fire. We hope you enjoy our analysis and theories. Don't forget to follow us on Instagram and TikTok, where our handle is @BookishRealmsPod.
We'd love to hear your thoughts on these chapters, so drop us a comment or send us a message. Also, leave us a rating if you like what you heard. It really helps us out.
Join us next week when we continue our Heir of Fire deep dives with chapters 52 through 58. Until then, keep reading, Assassins.
Bye!